What is up, guys? Speed and Yamsun here, and today we're excited to bring you guys the talent, skill, and item build for safe lane, mid lane, off lane, and support Mars. I just want to give you guys kind of a basis for what you should be building in your pubs on this hero, because it is a very confusing hero. I don't think the builds are very straightforward, and for that we're going to try to give you some clarity. Now, before we hop into the main content of this video, I just want to let you guys know that you can check out guides just like this one, made by top tier pros, and have over thousands of different options over at gameleap.com. Now, let's get into the main video. Alright, first let's go over the item build for the safe lane. For starting items, you're going to want to buy a stout shield, 2 tangos, and then double branch. This will allow you to get an early quelling blade to help with your last hitting. You want to go treads. Treads are great because they give strength, which goes very well with your passive. Then you want to go drums. Drums are great because your hero actually does need quite a bit of mana. Your spells cost a lot of mana, and you want to be clearing creep waves to keep your farm up. So drums gives you the ability to fight very well. It's a great early game item that gives very nice damage, but also gives you nice mana regen to sustain your farming patterns. Then you want to go Deso. Deso works incredibly well with your W. It's probably one of the highest damage items with your W. In addition, it allows you to nearly or completely one-shot waves depending on your level, so that is a super value pickup. Then after that, you want to go AC. This just synergizes very well with Deso and drums. You'll have very high attack speed, but as well damage, and in general your W will do a ton of damage, and in your ultimate, when you spear people to the wall, you can just beat them down with the high attack speed you'll get. And finally, because your hero actually does have a large weakness to magical damage, you want to pick up a BKB. I would even recommend picking up BKB before AC if you feel like it's a game where they have a lot of magical control or just damage in general. For skill build, I'm going to recommend you start with your W. You could get your Q, however, it doesn't do too much in terms of trading because even if you do stun them, they'll end up like across the lane. And it costs a lot more mana. Your W is only 55 mana at level 1 and gives you a crit that actually does more damage to heroes, so in general, it's a very good level 1 spell. Next, I would recommend you level your E, then your W, then your Q, being at level 4, 1, 2, and 1. This will allow you to trade very well because you do have your passive, but also give you the option to stun if needed. At level 5, get your W again, then your ultimate of course at level 6, maxing out your W at 7. Then after you have your W maxed out, finish up your Q, of course not skipping talent at 10, but then by 11 you'll have your Q maxed out, and then finally taking your ultimate again at 12. And finally, for the talent build, I'm going to recommend at level 10 you take 8 strength, at level 15 take 8 armor if you're squishy, but take damage if you're looking to just kill units. At level 20, always take the stun duration, and at level 25, take God's Rebuke because you're going right click.
In the middle lane, you want to play Mars as this kind of tempo controller that can easily set up a win condition for your team by becoming this unkillable tank that also does a significant amount of damage. You'll want to start out with a Stout Shield, Quelling Blade, Gauntlet of Strength, Ironwood Branch, and Fairy Fire, with 2 Fairy Tangos from your support. This will allow you to trade well early on with the enemy mid laner. You'll want to level your W first, as this is your bread and butter in the middle lane, and can easily let you secure CS and win trades with the enemy. In addition, you can also farm the jungle in your free time very well with this spell. Next, you'll want to get your E, or your passive at level 2, simply to make it easier to trade with your enemy once again. It's pretty hard to hit people with your spear in the mid lane, because there's not really a lot of terrain surrounding unless your creep wave is near your tower, so it's going to be really hard to attach somebody to a tree. You could spear them to your tower, but that's a bit more difficult and might not be applicable in many situations. So I would honestly just suggest taking another point in your W at level 2 or level 3, and then taking a point of your Q at level 4. For talents, you'll want to go move speed, 8 armor if you're squishy, and if you just need damage, then take the damage talent, the stun duration talent at level 20, and the God's Rebuke talent at level 25. This setup will make your hero a very good roamer, ganker, and team fighter, because you'll be able to easily maneuver in and out of the fight, getting your stuns off and setting off good ultimates, thanks to the added mobility from your level 10 talent and the additional stun duration at level 20. On mid, you'll probably want to go Phase Boots into Drums as your mid-game item. Phase Boots allows you to chase down heroes very easily and cast your spells on them. Mobility on this hero is very important as it allows you to angle your Q to attach people to trees, and the stun duration can easily allow you to set up kills with your allies. Drums also fulfills a similar aspect in addition to giving you very good stats and mana regeneration, which this hero is kind of lacking, being a strength hero. and having many spells to cast. My personal preference for the next item would be Radiance, simply because if you're in the mid lane with this hero, you're most likely dominating, as this hero seems to be a very good 1v1 laner. As a result, you can buy a Radiance to take advantage of how tanky your hero is, and how unlikely it is for the enemy to kill you, to simply just walk around in teamfights and become this highly annoying target that does a ton of damage and also can't be killed. After that, you'll probably want to buy a BKB if it's necessary, for similar reasons, being that you just want to stay alive as long as possible to keep casting spells in fights, because that's just the kind of hero that Mars is. Mars can also be played in the offlane as kind of this tanky hero that just runs into the fray of the fight and soaks up a bunch of damage and tries to get all of his spells down to control the enemy in hopes that his team can provide a DPS to finish them off. For starting items, you want a Stout Shield, 2 sets of Tangos, 1 Salve, and 2 Branches. Because of this, and how innately tanky the hero is, you'll generally be pretty good for staying in the laning phase for the first few minutes or so, as you'll be topped off with regen, and you're naturally tanky once again. So you'll want to either go E or W at level 1. E being the passive, allowing you to block substantial amounts of right-click damage and allowing you to trade properly. If you have a laning partner, they can also provide assistance with spells and stuff, making it very easy for Mars to sustain himself in the offlane. If you're looking to be a little more aggressive, you can level your W at level 1. This allows you to effectively get off a bonus auto attack in between hits, and really just helps you out when you're laning against more of these like magic nukes in the situation where leveling your passive doesn't really help you. You'll want to go phase boots into Wand, like most of the other builds. Wand being very important as many spells get cast in the side lane, and Mars has many mana issues, being that he is a strength hero. So Phase and Wand allows you to move in and out of fights very consistently without having to go to base very often. Next up, if you're going against many right clickers, you'll probably want to buy a Vanguard. Vanguard allowing you to tank up hits, and with the way damage reduction stacks with your passive, you almost take literally no damage from right clicks unless they're very, very strong ones. You can further upgrade this into a Crimson Guard if you feel it is necessary for your team to tank up, or you can simply go for a Vlad's if you're looking to group up and fight. Vlad's being a very good item, very relevant in the meta, giving your teammates armor and lifesteal, always a good thing to have. Afterwards, your item choices just simply depend on what your team needs to tank up on and what the enemy has to offer. So if you're playing against many magic nukers, for example, you could go Pipe. If you're playing against right clickers, you can proceed with a Solar Crest or an AC into Shivas later on. If you need initiation, or if you need to be the primary initiator as the offlaner with your ultimate and your stun, you can go Blink Dagger somewhere in between there to help secure fights in the mid game. An interesting item also to build is Meteor Hammer, once again, because at level 4 of your Q, you can impale somebody to a tree and then stun them for even more timing, allowing you to lock down somebody for a very long time, turning Mars into also more of a disabler in addition to a tank. From then on, for talent build, you'll typically take move speed, because to get into the fray of the fight, you really just need to be able to be there fast enough. The 8 strength, when you're building so many tank items, doesn't really help you as much as mobility would, in my honest opinion. At level 15, you probably want to take the same dilemma as before, where you still feel that you're squishy, even with all the tank items you're building. You can take the armor talent, if not, you can take damage. Stun duration, and the God's Rebuke talent at level 25.
Alright, next let's get into the support Mars. So for starting items, I'm going to go over position 4 and position 5 because they actually do vary a little bit. For position 4, I'm going to recommend you go Stout Shield, 6 Tangos, a Salve, and Mango. Pretty much the purpose here is that you just want to have as much regen as possible so that you can trade. For position 5, I'm going to recommend you go Stout Shield, 6 Tangos, a Ward, and the Courier. So after these starting items, I'm going to recommend you go Tranquil Boots, just so you can stay on the map and continue trading. Then Wand, so you don't have to struggle with the potential mana issues that this hero has. And then now, I don't think there's really a specific item that is great every single game for Mars support in particular, so I'm going to recommend a few and talk about why I think they're good. First off is Meteor Hammer. Now this is my personal favorite. When you have your Q maxed out and you pin someone to a tree or your ultimate, if you channel the Meteor Hammer afterwards, you get an even longer stun. So it's just a super long stun that actually does quite a lot of damage in combination with your ult. Next we have Blink. Blink is just great because you can blink and use your Q to put people out of position. There's a lot of great utility with this. In addition, you could blink ult to save a teammate, or just many of the other uses that Blink has with your ultimate. Then I would recommend Veil. Your hero naturally does a lot of magical damage with your Q and ultimate. Then Force Staff and Glimmer Cape. Both of these are your typical support items that are good nearly every single game. In addition, we recently figured out that Force Staff has a lot of interesting utility that we didn't know previously, but that will be in a different video or the one that came up before this, depending, but definitely a ton of utility in Force Staff. And Glimmer Cape is just a great item that can allow you to stay in your ult and man up. For skill build, I'm going to recommend you take your Q at level 1. This is naturally a good spell and is particularly good at ganking mid early on because you can push the enemy mid laner back towards your tower. It's good in lane. It's similar to Tiny Toss where you can put people either towards your tower or just into your entire team. But at level 2, I'm going to recommend you take your E. The reason you don't take your W is because you just want to trade and be able to get in people's faces to scare them as if you're about to skewer them towards your team. At level 3, take your Q again, but then at level 4, you want to have your W just so you have the quite nice ability to trade a little bit more effective. And it's a very good level 1 spell. It gives you a little bit of a knockback and actually has somewhat of a combination with your Q. At level 5, take your Q again. At level 6, naturally your ultimate. And at 7, you're going to have your Q maxed out. So your spear is a very long stun that works very, very well with your ultimate. Then after you've maxed out your Q, you're going to want to finish off your passive just so you can be a tank for your team. And then finally at level 10, you're going to want to take your talent. So for the talent build, it's actually the same as the mid talent build. You're going to want to take movement speed so that you can get in position for your spells. You would maybe argue the strength for position 4, however, what is important is that you can get your ultimate down on as many heroes as possible and be able to push out waves around the map, which movement speed is a lot better for. At level 15, you're going to want to take the 8 armor, once again if you're squishy, and if they have a little physical damage that you're trying to resist. However, the damage is quite good, especially if you're position 4. If you're position 5, I think the armor is almost always better. However, I think you could debate both of these. This is kind of a talent that is just very game dependent. At level 20, once again, you're obviously going to take the stun. However, I think as a support, if you actually do get to 25 somehow, then I would actually recommend that you take the HP regen instead of the rebuke, which would be the only slight change from the middle build. However, I think if you're position 4 Mars and you do end up getting some DPS items, then rebuke is good anyway. So if you're position 5, go HP. If you're position 4 with DPS items, take the rebuke increase. Better for. At level 15, you're going to want to take the 8 armor, once again if you're squishy, and if they have a little physical damage that you're trying to resist. However, the damage is quite good, especially if you're position 4. If you're position 5, I think the armor is almost always better. However, I think you could debate both of these. This is kind of a talent that is just very game dependent. At level 20, once again, you're obviously going to take the stun. However, I think as a support, if you actually do get to 25 somehow, then I would actually recommend that you take the HP regen instead of the rebuke, which would be the only slight change from the middle build. However, I think if you're position 4 Mars and you do end up getting some DPS items, then rebuke is good anyway. So if you're position 5, go HP. If you're position 4 with DPS items, take the rebuke increase. Alright, thank you for watching me and Yamsun's guide about Mars. Hopefully you guys can apply these items, talents, and skill builds all to your games so that you do not feed on Mars. The hero actually does have a 47% win rate at the time of me making this, so hopefully this video will maybe bump it up to 48%. Who knows? But definitely try out these builds and items. I think they'll help you guys have a lot more success with Mars. And once again, thank you for watching. If you did enjoy, please do like and subscribe and comment down below if you think there's a better item build for Mars that I have missed. Alright, see ya.